We are live.
The Fantasmagorium is proud to present Shotgun, Cyborgs, and CyberDyne. After the incredible success of Terminator 2 Judgment Day, the franchise attempted to continue the story. Twice. Then we had a soft reboot. None of them really took hold in the same way as the original Cameron-helmed Terminator films. Now, with a less soft reboot, and under the helm of Tim Miller, the world would witness a dark fate. Some may say, a very dark fate. My name is Scotty R37. Cat needs meds, and Steve says no to solid drapes in a room for a little girl. How are you guys?
Good. How are you?
Good.
I am excited because I was not angry at this movie. Everyone told me I was going to be angry at this movie, and I wasn't. I
thought you were going to like this movie.
And I did.
Yeah.
And before it disappears, thank Eugene Bird for sending us the generous super sticker.
Absolutely. We got a dancing Nintendo controller. It's amazing. Nice. It's so
Thank
good.
You. Keep the lights on for us.
Thank you, Eugene. I appreciate it, old man. I feel like you're a Dax symbiote or something. And also, speaking of the chat, I want to say let's rip this off like a Band-Aid because we do adore the sultry sting of the chat. Cinema Gulp is here. Hey, says can't wait to hear what Scotty has to say about this one. Well, I just told you, so spoilers.
There you go.
Old Man Bird says Linda doesn't get her face licked in this one, but she still seems PO'd.
She's always PO'd.
Will, we're going to get into the majesty that is Linda Hamilton. And unfortunately... Sorry, Kat?
We'll get into the good, the bad, and the ugly about this.
Yes, absolutely. Old Man Bird says, is this a Chug Show Phantasmagorium mashup broadcast? No, not this time. Not this time. Ben is preoccupied, but he is always in our hearts, and he keeps our souls aglow.
And
Canadian Spider-Man. Yeah. Sorry, I should allow other people to comment on our lovely chat. Canadian Spider-Man is here. I'm here for the free prostate exam. Yes. I did promise that on Twitter.
Great.
Really?
No, not really. But it's funny, isn't it?
Sure.
It is.
And as long as we're just taking care of old business, I did want to acknowledge what day is today. This is January 16th, 2025. And we have lost, speaking of shining lights, we have lost David Lynch. I'm sure that there will be many tributes. The one that stuck with me is, and I know Kat, you're a follower of David Lynch on Twitter, but the last tweet that was non-promotional, I think, was in April of 2024, and he said, "I love smoking, and the only cost it has ever been is my emphysema. I love the fire. I love the tobacco. I love the smell. I love lighting cigarettes. And I went to the doctor. Now I've quit smoking. I'm paraphrasing. I've quit smoking 2 years ago, and the doctor gave me nothing but good news, except my emphysema. I am not retiring, but thank you for your kind wishes. Regards, David."
Yeah.
And so I appreciate that. He looked at the world in a very different way. And yeah, I can't wait to see some of his films for the first time.
He was a very unique visionary director.
Very.
Mm-hmm.
I was reading today that he, when he made Eraserhead, that was a part of his AFI conservatorship for that, making that movie. And he was living in the horse stables at Greystone Mansion while he was making that movie. I thought that's kind of neat. But here is a quote that I thought stood out from Steven Spielberg about David Lynch. He says, "Here is one of my heroes, David Lynch playing one of my heroes. The world is going to miss such an original and unique voice. His films have already stood the test of time, and they always will." Spielberg, of course, referring to the fact that he cast David Lynch to play John Ford at the end of The Fabelmans, which was the pseudo biopic that he did a couple years ago. So that was kind of nice. And a bunch of other people have written lengthy tributes that have since come in. And apparently he was doing all right. And then once he had to evacuate from the fire and go to live with his daughter for a little bit, that's when his health just took a rapid decline, sadly. So that's another casualty of all the apocalypse going on.
Well, and
He is,
when I
yeah.
think when I think of David Lynch in terms of Mulholland Drive and Inland Empire and his weather reports that he would do, I think of David Lynch as being a part of Los Angeles in his later life, and so it kind of made sense that when a part of Los Angeles died, so did he.
Poetic, right?
So
We were
anyway, that's
talking
David
about
Lynch.
doing-
We'll talk about David Lynch later. We always will.
One of the best to ever do it.
Oh, absolutely. And yet his most, and what really stands also is that that's a true artist when the biggest box office any of his films got was 35 million, and I think that was for, it might have been the Dune. I can't, but it's like that's a very small amount of money, but people still, the guy's like on the Mount Rushmore of like people throw away around words like visionary and masterpiece a lot. He literally is
Truly,
on that and understands it, but that shows the strength of the following, that when you only have like when $35 million in box office is considered your best, but everybody on the street, it's like most people know who David Lynch is.
Yeah.
And that's like, again, he's a very big, not just cult success, but like everybody in the mainstream like knows who he is.
Yeah. I mean,
And
none of his, and strangely, none of his films made AFI's top 100 movies, but they put out a really nice tribute praising him as well. So I hope that his work.
one of his movies won Palme d'Or, best film at Cannes too. So
the one that Nick Cage was in
award-winning films. When great directors say who's some of your favorite directors, David Lynch is always on their lists, almost always on their lists. He'd be sorely missed.
Yeah, all of the nice artsy festivals recognized how great of a talent he was, whereas the Academy Awards, they gave 8 nominations to The Elephant Man, which was probably the most un-David Lynch-like David Lynch movie, but it was very good movie, excellent drama.
Yeah. Straight story.
Well, that's what I mean. It's kind of more of a, but it was very good.
Very good.
But yes, and we might even do a David Lynch series, so stay tuned.
Yay.
Yes.
But that is not why we're here today. We want to talk about something that hasn't changed the world. Just a movie that came out to be a blockbuster to build on the shoulders of giants. So Slasher Fred says, this movie kind of reminds me of Back to the Future Part 2, kind of way where it revisits the original movie, but in a whole different way. I think you're thinking of Genesis, Slasher Fred. We did that one last week, and that's how I felt about Genesis. But this one, I don't know. You'd have to elaborate. Ben is here for the testicular exam.
Well, the story. It's the same story. It's a rehash of the same story.
Right, but Genesis actually goes back to a scene from the original movie.
It does.
From the Griffith Park Observatory.
Correct.
And Old Man Bird says, I am here for the male breast cancer exam. What? Okay, guys. No exams.
Right.
And Slasher Fred says, watching The Elephant Man, you never knew that you were watching a Mel Brooks movie, because Mel Brooks at the time was known for doing his comedic films. Yeah, he took his producer credit off of that, just so people didn't think that it was going to be like Young Frankenstein 2. So what
there
year was it?
There might be an exam at the end for your David Lynch knowledge pop quiz, but
yeah,
we'll save that for the end. That's the only exams we're giving here today.
Before we move on, Cinema Gulp says Ari Aster may help to carry on that strange length. I agree with that. We'll see. It's a little early,
Very early
in his career, but still, we'll see. He's definitely one of those who could pick up the mantle, though, for sure.
Yeah, I was surprised when I looked back at it and thought, I'm like, wow, that's right. David Lynch was only like 30 when he was working on Eraserhead.
Right.
Like, man, visionary. But now, to Terminator Dark Fate.
Yes.
What an apt title for a movie where it's the dark fate of this franchise to just keep retelling the same damn story to its own detriment.
Right.
Because this is now the 3rd time in a row where they've tried to do a reboot of what was supposed to be the start of a new series of movies, and they failed for the 3rd time in a row.
Yes. Now, this is an interesting, you could say that Genesis was in the burgeoning days of internet criticism. And there was a lot of internet criticism about Genesis. But I think everything went sort of full tilt boogie when it came to Dark Fate. The year was what, 2022?
Dark Fate? 2019.
Yeah. 2019. So we're pre-pandemic. We're post 2016. We're post Me Too. A lot of people were talking about the girl boss aspects of it, and there was a lot of pushback about it. People were saying it was woke, woke, woke.
I don't remember that.
I do very specifically.
Yeah, I don't remember seeing a lot of that, but okay, that's fine.
Well, and just in terms of internet commentary,
I don't think the internet hurts average moviegoers. I think that the internet, people that complain on the internet about those types of things, are a very small part of a very small part of the actual movie going audience. The general audience doesn't give a good goddamn about any of that for the most part.
Well, and it does come.
I just don't think they were ready. I don't think anybody cared anymore. And I think that's for 2019 was one of the biggest box office takes of any year prior. I mean, it might have been to that date the biggest box office year ever. I have to check that. In fact, check. Would it
be like a very competitive year? I can't off the top of my head.
It was super competitive. There were so many billion-dollar films that year. I don't have that number off the top of my head. I'd have to go look it up, and I didn't do that research.
No, it's fine. It's cool. What do you preparation? What do we need that for?
Yeah, right.
Yeah,
but 2019 was a huge year for movies, and for this movie to not take off. I think people were just kind of burnt out on the franchise.
The production budget of this film was between $185 and $196 million, and the final box office take was $261.1 million.
Yeah, that's not.
So they lost money.
Right.
Not going to cut it. In a year where everybody was going to the movies.
Yeah, that's it. You had Avengers Endgame that year that made $2 billion and a ton of replay value. You had
Rise of Skywalker,
really bad, but still made $1 billion. You had the Lion King remake, which made like $1.5 billion, and
Captain Marvel, Joker.
Yeah,
so
that made
$1 billion films that year.
Yeah, so that's huge. That's a huge competitive year, no argument. But
this came out right after that too. This came out November 2019, so that was right on the heels of Joker.
Yeah. So maybe, yeah, I can accept that it is a tired franchise, but I think that there was because if it is the same year as Joker, remember that there was a big marketing push that going to see Joker was sort of an FU to the PC mob, if you will. But that was a thing. If you liked it, you were an incel, and if you watched Terminator Dark Fate, then you were into androgynous girl bosses and what is all this. And also, and just in terms of the general marketing, like in terms of the general audience, they really announced that at the beginning of the movie they were going to kill John Connor. And I think that when they do something like that, not only at the beginning of the movie, but then leak that as a spoiler, then that's something where, like, why go see it? I've already heard the best part, except, like, this, I think that this is not that bad a movie, and I think that the criticisms and maybe the marketing fall apart was a little bit to blame for that, because the movie itself, while poorly written, is an outstandingly outlandish action movie. And if it, like, imagine the movie Rampage starring The Rock, except with Terminators. Like, it's not good, but it's certainly not the dumpster fire that I thought it was. And when we get to the rankings, you may be surprised.
Yeah, me too. I didn't find it to be horrible at all. I saw it in the theater when it first came out. I was excited for it. I was like, okay, cool. I think I kind of bought into the promise of this, this new reboot of the franchise. And when I walked out of the theater, I said, okay, bummer. That's not going to go anywhere, but it wasn't a waste of my $12 or whatever I paid to see it at all. And it's certainly not the worst movie I saw that year. There are plenty.
Yeah, I feel it kind of, in terms of the negatives, it's like, okay, so you kill John Connor up front. You deliberately leak that beforehand, telling everybody a big surprise right up front.
Yeah.
And even if you've never seen a Terminator movie before, there's like the scene when Sarah and I already forgot her name, the Mackenzie Davis character, or Grace. They're in the car driving, and Sarah's asking her about Skynet. And she's like, I never heard of Skynet. It's like, comes self-aware, wipes us all out, and Grace is like, oh no, this was something else. It was called Legion. It was AI technology. So and then Sarah rolls her eyes like, will they ever learn? So even in the dialogue of the movie, they're basically telling you we are in the same exact conflict that we were last time. So it doesn't matter if you haven't seen the previous movie, because we're basically going to tell the same exact story again.
Right.
And they lead you on for much of the movie to think that the girl is the mother, like as if you're repeating Terminator 1. But then it's like, oh no, it's going to be you. So it's like, okay, so now we're kind of repeating Terminator 2. But it's still a repeat. It's the same thing we've done before. And the new Terminator is, he looks like a guy who wandered out of a magazine catalog or something. He's like a model. There's nothing intimidating about him. Once again, it's like a cyborg, but he melds into liquid oil, so the logic isn't really there.
Yeah.
Oh no, but I like the Terminator design. I think that the logic was there. We've already given up on it has to be biological to go back in time. Like that's out the window. That was out the window with the T-1000.
Yeah, and so here we are again with we're doing the same thing again. Action's good, and that's what I liked about it. The action was all there, but
yeah.
Even the thing about the Terminator, the original T-800 101 model, being able to find a purpose. It's like, wait a minute. If you weren't reprogrammed, your mission is still to serve Skynet. So why are you? I could never really get on board with why he's suddenly deciding to help Sarah, because it's like, sure, you may be spending time and learning how to disguise yourself as a human, but nobody changed your programming. Yes, you finished your specific mission, but wouldn't there still be an underwritten thing that you're anti-human? And that, yeah, Sarah Connor's still Sarah Connor. So I don't know. It was just like I couldn't really get there with it. I mean, I like Schwarzenegger's performance. I like that they were trying something different. I just didn't think the logic necessarily held up as well as it could have.
I mean, well, we will get into but we do have an infiltration unit. Someone alert the dogs.
Oh, well,
Ernesto.
Right now, I'm buried under 70 pounds of love from my dog.
Nice. Okay, not barking. So you're not a Terminator. Great.
No, I was part of my programming. Don't let the cyborg Superman.
When did you? That's my favorite Donovan song, Cyborg Superman. When did you first see Dark Fate?
Thursday evening when it opened.
Nice.
Opening day.
And what were your thoughts?
Well, it was fine until they offed John Connor, and then the movie went somewhere else. And then I was sitting there thinking to myself, what are we watching?
Well,
yeah. Also, I think there's a delay. There's a delay, so I think I say something, and then 5 seconds later, you guys respond.
Okay, so if I say, hey, you say...
Hello.
All right, I think you're fine.
Okay.
I did like that they brought back Linda Hamilton, though. I thought, because again, she has that raw, nitty-gritty meanness to her as Sarah. Like, that's Sarah Connor.
Yeah.
I totally buy it for her.
Oh, yeah.
Absolutely. And considering the death of John Connor, so spoilers to everybody who doesn't know, but if you're on the internet, you do. It's like a ringtone. So, you get, hey, puppers.
Hey, look.
So within the first, almost like the pre-credits stinger is you get Arnold Schwarzenegger de-aged, you get Eddie Furlong thin and de-aged, you get Linda Hamilton de-aged, and they all look like they're from Terminator 2. This was touted as being the direct sequel to Terminator 3 somehow. And and so Arnold Schwarzenegger kills a child.
Yeah, it's direct touted as the direct sequel to Terminator 2. They've erased Terminator 3 from the continuity. And
I misspoke.
But again, it's like, okay, so now there's a Terminator that shows up in Mexico. It's attacking this girl. We have to protect her. It's like, okay, it's the same thing again. And it's basically, are you on board with the action and the new design for the Terminator? And I feel again that that's the same thing through each of these sequels. Like they keep trying to repeat the Judgment Day magic, and they never learned that lesson. It's like Judgment Day worked because nobody expected there to be a sequel. Right. It was, it's a similar plot, almost the same plot, but it is layered with so many things that made it stand out and better. And now it's just like we're just doing that same thing over and over. Oh, how about the person sent back in time to protect her as a Terminator as well? Okay.
Yeah.
But then they don't really do anything unique or interesting with that either.
Yeah,
well, and
very ambitious at the time. Like, it feel like every single scene with T2 was just upping itself one after the other. And this is James Cameron, and I think you can call it in his prime, like where he's just like, you know what? I proved myself with this. So I'm going to do whatever the hell I want. And whatever the hell he wanted to do was just, You have I believe Stan Winston was the one that did all the prosthetics and yeah, like they were all on fire. This was an era where everything was just firing on all cylinders, and you could do no wrong. No.
Yeah. Oh yeah, we all gave it 10 out of 10. It sounded like there weren't enough 10 out of 10s to go around.
Oh yeah. Also, wasn't James Cameron? Oops, almost dropped the computer. Wasn't James Cameron the one that the B unit was trying to figure out how to do the scene with Schwarzenegger getting crushed by the metal beam, and he went in there and did it himself, and they just recorded him just hitting the model one after another.
Oh, sounds right.
Sounds right.
Yeah, but Dark Fate had a lot of good ideas. Dark Fate, I like the idea of the new Terminator being half Terminator, half liquid metal. That it can had like a Gemini killer, basically, like it was 2 in 1. I like that idea. I like that it was like, okay, it's brand new. It's a new model because it's Legion. It's no longer Skynet, so it's got the same themes but different design, even though it's kind of funny how, so it's a new system, yet somehow it decided to do the same thing, but with a slightly different, like, hey, copy my homework, but change your name at the end of it.
Exactly.
Well, but it is very much like the TX, because the TX was a liquid metal covering with a metal, like a regular Terminator endoskeleton. And now it was like, well, what if they split into two? So I feel like they're even kind of cribbing from Rise of the Machines.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, exactly. The only difference is that this one went full Gemini. It's like, okay, you're going to go over there, I'm going to go here.
But in terms of the mechanics of it, I did like how they sort of made it like a hollow, like there was space for the liquid goo to go into, so that the weight and distribution of mass made sense in a certain way. And so I did like the design of it. And honestly, watching it, maybe my brain is just used to CGI at this point, but it was fucking great CGI.
Oh, yeah. It looks fantastic. That's one of there's not a lot of praises I can give Dark Fate, but the praises I do give it start with the design of the new Terminator. I like that it goes back to T2 with the T1000, where you don't need a size to be imposing. You just need to be imposing. And I think
but he looked like the guy from The Office.
Yeah, but that's the thing with the Terminator. It's one of those things where this is one of those few designs that actually blends into the population, because you're already expecting what a Terminator looks like, a big dude just crashing into things, and you're just like, what the fuck is wrong with this guy? But in this case, it's more calculating, and it can actually blend in to the population like the last few ones. So it's like, if it's learning, okay, that didn't work, let's just upgrade and do this one. And because it's Legion, I think Legion, because we don't see how Legion comes to pass, it just is. Maybe with Legion, it kind of like went the opposite way. Hey, instead of just sending a hulky motherfucker in there, let's just send like something that nobody's going to expect until it's too late.
Now, the only problem with this is all of the time travel mechanics.
Sure. Yeah. Well,
like it makes no sense. I suppose if we drew a map. Okay, so here we go. Skynet sends, let's say, 5, 6, 8 Terminators back in time at the time of the smashing of the time machine by Kyle Reese after he is sent through time, right? No, wait. Doctor Who took over John Connor. No, wait, that didn't happen because this is the official sequel to Terminator 2. So, okay, Anyway, so we've sent them all back in time, but if they destroyed, no, because the entire process of the Terminator franchise, even 1 and 2, if you destroy Skynet, doesn't that mean that the time machine is never built? So they should never come back.
Yes, Terminator 2 creates a time paradox where it shouldn't, that universe like collapses. It shouldn't exist the way it does.
It's just gone.
Yeah.
Okay.
And all that remained died at the end when the Terminator comes up this way to lava.
Yeah, and the fact that Legion, they also invented a time machine, and it's like, but that's what it just felt so lazy. It's like, we don't want to say that Skynet worked around it again, so let's just make something, the same exact thing from another company. Or it's like, okay.
Yeah.
And the thing is, and Kat, I think you and I talked about this. We had a night where we were just debating how this movie could have gone a different way. And obviously, I mean, after watching all the interviews that Edward Furlong has been, you can clearly would not be able to recast him into the original role. You have to find someone else to take the mantle like that. Like his life went so unfortunately down the barrel that putting him in here would just be a monumental task on its own. You can't Robert Downey Jr. him back into a career. Let's put it that way.
Well, he's done a lot of, admittedly direct to streaming movies and stuff. He's kind of back on his feet. He's not,
but at the time he was like, that wouldn't have been
20 years ago, sure, but in 2019 he was back in movies and stuff, so they could have brought him back at then.
Right now I'm just going off the interviews he's done last year.
So are you saying his physicality wouldn't bring him back to be John Connor?
Physicality wouldn't bring him back, and I don't think acting-wise he would have been able to pull off whatever would have called. Because one thing Kat and I had discussed is, what if we don't kill John Connor in this new timeline? What if, they stopped it, but then with time paradox, whatever, the machines are still coming back, but then John Connor is no longer the savior, it's someone else. And then you have a storyline where his entire life, he was being drilled into his head, you're going to be the savior of mankind. We need to prepare you. And then when the day comes, it doesn't happen. It starts all over again. All of a sudden, suddenly I'm no longer important anymore. And how would I justify the rest of my life? Kind of like what T3 was doing, where he lived through it, trying to find his way. And now, I'm no longer the savior, but now I have to protect who would be the next potential savior. And then you can kind of have like, the hero finds his calling, but it's not the calling that was meant to be.
Yeah, much better story.
Yeah, again, it was like right there, but then here comes James Cameron. Nope, ice the bitch.
Right. Yeah.
And I'm surprised that James Cameron wanted to do that. It's like, why do you want to kill John Connor? Like,
it's your baby, bro. It's your baby.
I know.
Yeah, and that's the thing, is that James Cameron was more hands-on with this one as producer instead of just executive producer.
Yes,
and he went to this. He wanted this.
Director? What was the name of the director?
Tim Miller, same guy who made the last one.
Yeah, Tim Miller went to him with the idea, and he signed on right away. That's
right, but it's like James Cameron was more excited to come back to this movie, and yet you go with this idea to kill John Connor just so you could retell virtually the same plot from the previous 3 movies. It's like the previous 2, from Terminator 3 and Terminator 5. Let's just do it again. It's like, why do you want to do it again? It's like, James, you yourself did this story in Terminator 2. Why are we doing it again in Terminator 6?
Now, you can argue that with the Star Wars logic that it's poetry, it rhymes, but you have to write the poetry to make it make sense.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
It has to rhyme, damn it.
But this is one of my biggest complaints that I had with Terminator Salvation, is that it was like there's no time travel, and I went into my reviewing, like I rewatched it, being like, you know what, maybe this is going to be a kick-ass future action movie, and it was so dour and boring, and I hated it, and I wanted to like it because it was doing something different.
Yeah.
And when they just didn't do it properly, and because they failed doing it once, they stopped doing it. But if I apply that same argument, so they try and make it something more familiar in Genesis, no one liked that, so they try and make it more familiar, like in Dark Fate. It's like, so why did you give the doing something more familiar a second shot, but you didn't give Future War another go?
Because as Old Man Bird says in the chat, because money.
Because money.
And money was the reason why James Cameron was in the marketing department for Genesis, where he's just sitting there in a chair in a dark room, and you can look on his face. It's like, I'm only doing this for the money. I have no investment whatsoever. Whatever the hell you guys are doing right here. And you know what's sad about Salvation? I know I wasn't fully a part of the review, but there's a line in the trailer and in the scene where Christian Bale meets Sam Worthington, and his line is, "The devil's hands have been busy." That line sets up the trilogy that could have been about creating the time machine.
Yeah.
Because that would have tipped off John Connor. Oh my God, Skynet is doing shit right now, and we need to really get in there.
Right.
Well, and I think I honestly think that it would have been a better situation if they had continued on with the future war as opposed to again, like Genesis is a remake of the Genesis is a remake, and so is Dark Fate. But I think as this is the better soft reboot because it is sort of the handing of the baton. This is your Force Awakens, if you will, if you have Sarah Connor there passing along, and obviously, and they're gonna send. Oh, there's another Arnold because I've been hunting Terminators all my life, says Sarah Connor, and so another one will show up, and then they'll have to stop it, get the chip, switch it, and then we keep going for part 2. But
so, what did you think about the whole Schwarzenegger character storyline and what he's been up to with sending the messages and trying to give Sarah's life purpose and all that?
Who are you asking?
Anybody on the panel, like, what'd you all think of that story where he's suddenly learning human emotions and sympathy, even though he acknowledges that he doesn't love the family he's with as much the way a human can? It's like the idea that, I've completed my mission, so I guess I'm going to love the humans whom essentially you were sent back to kill John Connor specifically to cause the demise of the human race, but now you're suddenly helping the humans and liking them. It's like,
I thought it was weird. It felt, I don't know. I felt they did it better in Salvation. That kind of,
Salvation or Genesis? Because
I'm sorry, Genesis. Yeah,
Genesis is where the machine raises Sarah Connor.
I actually, I mentioned, I think that last week that I thought that was a strong point. I didn't feel that in Dark Fate the same way. So no, I didn't.
I had to mentally gymnast it because I was like, okay, so once the Terminator completes its mission, what does it do? Now, my understanding from comics and stuff was that once the Terminator completed its mission, it basically just shut down because it's a fucking machine. But because of what we're building on in Terminator 2, in that it has a neural net learning computer, is that it will go on and try and, like, now it's going to become Bicentennial Man or something. But it doesn't make sense because we're not talking about a good Terminator. I did, for the purposes of the narrative of the film, I had to suspend a lot of disbelief. And the storytelling hangs loosely on a very firm frame of action. So when it comes to the story, I'm asking, what is it about? And it's about redemption for the Terminator, purpose for Sarah Connor, purpose for what's her name? Danny. Grace. Grace is fulfilling and her redemption or her protection. Like, there's a lot of stuff going on. There is no continual through line for the entire narrative. And so when I am starting to ask questions about the movie, or when my incredulity rises up, I get a flashy light show with 2 planes crashing into each other, and I'm like, wow.
Yeah, right.
Old Man Bird said he thought that was touching, added psychological stimulation with the
I did too, but I had to go a long way to get to that. To empathize with it and actually believe it. I was like, well, I do like that Arnold and Linda are here.
I think that actually, like I said, I think that there was more organic in the last movie, which I hated. But it was way that particular, the robot emotion. Love, protection of the child kind of emotion was way better it was made way more organic in Genesis than it was in this Dark Fate.
Flash of Fred says time travel in the 80s seemed to be very popular because you also had Back to the Future and you also had that underrated sci-fi movie called The Philadelphia Experiment.
Yeah. Sure. What about Flight of the Navigator?
Yeah, there's a couple others too. Big ones. Yep.
He says, I don't know if you guys ever watched it, but there's an old classic silent movie called The Man Who Laughs, and the main character of the movie who looks like he's always smiling was the inspiration. Inspiration for the Terminator?
For the Joker.
For the Joker.
Oh, the Joker, yeah. Right, we were talking about that earlier.
Yeah.
We were.
Let's see what else we got here. So yeah, I liked the action. I thought the action was really good.
CGI was great.
Yeah, CGI was great.
Tim Miller loves his slow-mo.
Yeah. Well, yeah, him and 80 other directors.
I thought they could have done more with the Danny Ramos character. She was kind of a plot device. You're kind of there. Yeah. It's like, oh, we say you're the future. Like, okay.
Yeah.
But it's just. I agree with Eugene that the way that Arnold plays it is very nice and touching. I was just trying to do the mental gymnastics. It's like trying to get there, sort of like with the last movie. I was doing the mental gymnastics to figure out how it justifies the timeline and trying to figure that out.
Yeah.
But this, it's like, again, it's a trilogy. But if you really want to launch, like you tried to launch a trilogy in Salvation and it didn't work because even though it's an action movie with Terminators, but I can't remember what the prime criticism was that people didn't like that movie, as far as from the general audiences in 2009. Genesis, a lot of people didn't like it because it's like, okay, you're just doing Judgment Day again, and you didn't bring back Linda Hamilton or whatever, so because you're doing a time jump type stuff, and now you're doing it again, and you did bring back Linda Hamilton, but she made it clear in the press junket she wasn't going to come back. This was really grueling, and she's not going to do another one. But even then, to Scotty's point, it's like you're copying somebody's homework and all you do is change your name at the end. Like, what's the meat of a trilogy here? It's like there's
right. And
the trilogy
again,
what?
Again, like you and I talked about over the last 3 or 4 weeks, maybe, but 3 weeks for sure, is that every time they try to set these movies up for trilogies, I don't feel like they're written. The first movie's written to be a trilogy, to actually have any kind of meaty story to tell, overarching 3 movies. So I mean, they're almost all really self-contained.
Yeah.
So to answer Kat's question about what did I think about, after John Connor got killed and he went off to discover life. So the line is basically, nice family. She a Terminator too, that your little Terminator kid. It's like, his name is Mateo. I met his mother, Alicia, a few months after I killed John, which he gets pissed off at him. Don't you dare say his name ever. Her husband had been beating her. He was trying to kill her child. She had nowhere to go. Caring for this family gave me purpose, because without purpose, we are nothing. Touching story. Does it have a point? While raising Mateo, my son, I began to understand what I had taken from you. Wait, you grew a conscience? The equivalent of one, yes. And I'm now thinking to myself, but no, because you fulfilled your purpose and you would be standing somewhere in a corner waiting for Judgment Day to happen. That is the only thing. The only way that it could ever reach to the point where he actually lifts a finger to actually save that woman from being beaten by her husband, which I'm going to believe he killed that husband and buried him somewhere in the woods.
Yeah, oh yeah.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
The only way that would happen is if he short-circuited just by watching the action. That's the only thing that could. And he had to do like a self-reboot, and by doing that self-reboot, while she was getting beaten, is when he took action, evolved right there, and grew that conscience. That is the only plot narrative you could rewrite into it to make that even make sense.
No, you're absolutely correct.
I agree.
Yeah, no, the thing is, like, you do have to make that. You have to make that leap in logic and being, okay, so once the Terminator fulfills its goal, then it's going to turn into the good Terminator from Terminator 2 that was programmed by John Connor from the future. Like, and even if you didn't see the extended cut and it's a learning computer and that's just what it's going to do, like, once it's killed John Connor, what is it going to do? Like, why is it going anywhere? Like, why it wouldn't even occur to a Terminator to go away. It would just shut down or blow up.
And it flies in the face of everything going all the way back to the first movie when Kyle Reese is talking to Sarah in the car. He's like, look, it doesn't have a conscience. It doesn't have a heart. It can't learn feelings. It doesn't feel. It is a machine. It will keep doing it. And they repeat this with the person trying to protect whoever the target is in each of these movies. They reiterate or paraphrase basically the same thing Kyle said in the first one over and over again. So yeah, it makes no sense in Dark Fate that this is. It's like you wanted to give a touching story for Arnold, but you didn't really.
Yeah. And the thing is that the lines that they give him about, oh, I do drinks or whatever, I like all that. I just like going with it. But that little missing piece of the Lego puzzle is what was needed to make it flow. That's the only thing.
And
but not only that,
the machines were actually learning machines. They wouldn't be even concerned with humanity because half of them would break off and realize that the other half are bad, evil, doing wrong, right? So you'd have a faction of machines against the other faction of machines, and humans would be disregarded or irrelevant.
Oh man, Bird, you know what movie I just described? The Iron Giant. The Iron Giant was sent to Earth to
I've never seen it.
And because of
no spoilers,
it crashed. It got the bump on its head. Then it decided to turn into amnesia and started saving and becoming Superman in the movie. I just described the plot to the Iron Giant.
Yes, it's a good movie.
But this is the thing when it comes to the Terminator, as you mentioned, Kat. It will not stop. It is relentless. And there are two quotes from Reese, which I thought was a very interesting name choice. Grace, Reese, kind of rhymes. And but it. Like at the end of Dark Fate, what does the Terminator do? It bargains and reasons with the people protecting Danny. And it's like, Terminators don't do that. We learned that in 1984.
Because we're not fucking machines. I think that was the line.
Yeah, that's the
Kyle Reese does that as well. You can't bargain with it or reason with it.
That's what I'm saying.
And Tim Miller went out of his way to make the whole... I think because of under the Trump administration, he went through this whole thing about setting the police station from the first movie in the Border Patrol Agency with all the cages.
I thought that was good.
And again, executed fine, but that was like such a big deal in this whole movie about why it's Danny, why they have to be the Hispanic honey, why they're being displaced by the automotive and all that stuff.
No, I didn't.
What you're doing,
sorry, Kat really wants to get to this chat because Eugene Bird makes sure that we can keep playing.
He says that would make a good Terminator movie. A Terminator showing up at random wrongdoings and saving the day with violence.
Yes.
Yeah.
And RoboCop.
I'm sorry.
And RoboCop.
Like that scene in the movie after he kills John Connor. When follow the thread.
Wait.
Somewhere.
Wait. Let's go back because. I thought it was completely logical. And again, I'm watching this movie through the perspective, and I'm sure that people have heard the criticism of this being like, oh, it's woke. It's so woke. We got to do something with ICE. We got to do something with immigration. And it's like, shut up. This makes sense because they are in Mexico City. She's completely displaced. And the only reason that Sarah Connor is there is because she's not allowed in the United States. Like, they had to go. And I know that it's a hot button topic of events of the day, but I don't think it was making a political statement.
Oh, it was, but it doesn't.
I don't think it was. I was trying. I was like initially like, are they bombarding me with a propaganda, or is this just this is how they set the story? And if that was their intention, if that's what they wanted to do, and be like, oh, when we'll shine a little bit of a light on borders, it is so absolutely vanilla and tame that it has nothing to do with anything. It's just, we're in Mexico, we don't have passports, I'm a villain, like, speaking of Sarah Connor, and this bitch is from the future. How are we going to cross a border? Well, we're going to have to go through the border shit.
You're right that it's not like being preachy or anything, but when Ernesto makes the point that this is why the new savior is going to be Latino and have to go to the border, all that is because of that. But it's doing it in a much better way than other preachy.
Yes,
propaganda
it is.
stuff where this is
What
kind of like how you
I
should
also was also trying to say is that Tim Miller was making a point of that's what inspired him to make the movie. In every single interview, he keeps going back to what was happening down in the borders, what inspired him to tell the story. And when you actually watch the movie, it is very vanilla compared to what you thought it was going to be, but it's still there. It's happening. That's why the location of, like, even when they're working at the factory and they're seeing that they're being replaced by automation, it's making the point that, oh, well, we're outsourcing our the workers south of the border, but at the same time, we're going to get rid of those jobs with automation. So it's having its cake and eat it too. It's like technology is taking over. Progress is happening. You can't stop it, just like you can't reason with it because it's going to happen. Mm-hmm. But here are your main characters who are of that persuasion.
But why would you think that that's an oddity in an automotive?
No, I'm not saying it's an oddity
company.
That was the primary focus of all his.
Like the idea of automation taking over human jobs is something as old as the 80s.
But it wasn't the focus.
Or even the 50s, for Christ's sake.
But this one makes it more of the focus with the automation.
Well, no, but
I for this one did not make a point that automation was progress killing mankind's future. This is the only one.
It was weak. You're right. It was a weak sauce argument, but I don't think it's anything new because I think it's you know what? And it's one of those things that was beaten over the head in the same way that. Hang on, I'm almost done. And it's in the same way where it's like, what's an EMP? And it's like, you're going to explain what an EMP is for the 11th time. How many times? I saw GoldenEye in 1994 and they explained what an EMP was. Are we still doing this?
Yeah, a lot of people don't know what an EMP is, Scott.
Fucking idiots. Why are they in a robot movie?
Because they watch 7 movies a year.
Let Steve get his words in.
Oh no! I was just gonna say it wasn't about that. It was just Tim Miller's primary motivation. That's all it was. It wasn't about one thing or the other.
And it's going about it
for him to actually make the movie.
Yeah, and it's going about it in a smart way because he's not beating you over the head with it. It's like you mentioned. It's like it's a segment of the movie, but you could read from it what you will.
Yeah,
but it could have been even better if they actually used metaphor. An allegory better. I mean, it could have been written way better, and just the writing was.
And the acting wasn't there. I'm sorry, but the people they chose to be the new face of the franchise, like old guard to new guard, that wasn't it. I'm sorry, no. And this is not me being sexist. This is not me talking about someone being militant.
That's usually a forecast for
there is a
wellness.
Scene in the movie. There is a scene in the movie when they're in the motel and Sarah Connor's having a conversation with Danny, and the woman can barely, in her height, she can barely make it past the light switch in the bathroom. I'm like, no, that woman was gonna get creamed day one. Get her out of there.
Well, but how did you feel about Emilia Clarke as Sarah Connor in Genesis? Because she's 3 apples tall.
Same thing. I did not see her shooting that gun without being injured after every single round with exiting that shotgun. I am sorry. Right. At least with Linda Hamilton, when you see her actually, assembling that gun, okay, that woman can kick my ass. There is something about her presence and how she's assembling that assault rifle that makes me think, yeah, that woman has been through it and she's going to kick my ass.
Yeah,
I don't know. Maybe I'm not. Anyway,
she had Linda Hamilton brings it. Like she is Sarah Connor.
Yeah,
I didn't. That's why I didn't buy that recast in Genesis. But here it's great.
Yeah,
but then again,
Clark, Mother of Dragons, more like Mother of what the fuck are you supposed to be right now?
Right, and like Steve.
Shut
said,
your fucking face, Uncle Fucker.
Like Steve said, the writing just isn't there. It's a very vanilla retread for the. So they've done this story with Judgment Day, with Rise of the Machines, with Genesis, and now the 4th time with Dark Fate. And what a surprise, it failed. Even though people, I think, praised the action and the effects at the time, there wasn't anything going for the story.
I like Gabriel Luna and Mackenzie Davis. I liked them as actors. I thought they were fine in this movie for what they were asked to do.
Oh,
I thought Schwarzenegger brought it. So I thought that was fine.
Cat, this is one point that I've always made with Cat with every movie that Schwarzenegger has done since coming back from public service and being governor, is that he looks great when he's got the hair that's not his. Because his hair is thinning in real life, so it looks really terrible, and nobody has told him yet. But when he's wearing like another type of hairstyle or hairdo, he brings it. I don't know what it is. It just makes him look different, and it's good, different.
He's also not a robot.
He's also not a robot. Also, as far as you mentioned woke. The only thing about Dark Fate that I think is even remotely quote unquote woke, if we want to have the argument, is when Grace asks him, "What are you?" And he says, "I'm a T800 Model 101. May I ask what you are?" No. That's like, oh my fucking God. He's just asking you if you're a design of something or not. He's not asking for your sexuality.
I disagree with that interpretation wholehearted. Nope. I'm going to have to respond to that immediately, because at that point, we have the trio of Grace, Sarah, and Danny. And Sarah just tried to kill Carl. And it's like he answers because he is open and willing. He's been sending messages. He wants Sarah there for whatever reason. You found him, and now it's like, okay, you are a threat of some sort, as according to Sarah.
Yeah.
So I don't think it was can I ask what you are? No, in terms of some sort of gender political response. I think it was like, no, who I just came here with tried to kill you because you are going to kill us. So fuck you, asshole.
Asshole.
Well, but at the same time, he's asking, "May I ask what you are?" because he scanned her, and I'm just like, "What are you? I've never seen one like you before."
Well, yeah, because it's not a Terminator. And again, you're cribbing from Salvation, because you've got your what's your name? Jake Sully from Salvation is now Grace Kelly, or whatever her name is.
Old Man Bird says, "But if they make another, we'll go see it, right?"
Yes.
Yeah. Of course.
So
in
he followed that
D-Box.
up. Would you watch a Terminator versus RoboCop movie? Sounded like you will watch the next Terminator no matter what.
Well, we did watch. Well, I don't know if the whole panel has, but the Netflix animated show pretty much gave it just a little bit of a Viagra push to the franchise, because it actually did something with it. So
I heard it was good. I heard it was really good. I still haven't seen it.
Just like the Predator movie getting the revitalization with the Prey movie, whether you agree with it or not, there is potential, and you can go back to it, but you do have to break the cycle at some point.
This is what I think, we talked about this, several weeks during this series, is that this franchise needs one of those Prey-like moments. It really does. I think it needs to be stripped down, and it needs a direction from maybe an auteurist director that has a vision for it, that can take it in a new direction.
And there is an idea. There is an idea already that the movies have thrown out there, and a lot of people, at least if you look at the messages and the message boards when Genesis came out, one aspect of that movie that a lot of people liked the most was the fact that the Terminator went even further back in time when Sarah was a child. So I think a key thing that it's very good to explore, yes, I know, a key thing to explore is that you are sending back in time a very advanced machine. And people who have no idea, have never seen anything like that before, that is the horror right there. How do you fight something that you've never seen before? It is technologically advanced in every single way. If in the future it takes a lot of scrappy, underhanded tactics to even kill one, then that's the key to maybe trying a new franchise, sending it to the 70s, the 60s. Maybe do the Roswell.
But you can't, and this is the thing, is that you can't do that, because the crux of...
If you want to try something...
So who are you going to kill? Who are you going to kill? That's the thing with a Terminator. You have to establish the target first.
Well, I'm going to give it to you right now. If the idea
Great, I was waiting.
in time and the technology of time travel is brand new, then here's a storyline. We're going to send it back in time. Oopsie, we missed it by 3 decades.
What
and
is
now
it,
you have
Doctor
a machine
Who?
that is trying to find someone, last name Connor. Well, we're going to find the Connor somewhere.
Here's something. What if the Terminator...
God, you don't have to admit it so much.
What if the Terminator goes back, kills somebody who's their target for the same reasons? We got to protect Skynet, all that. But because of how far back they went and the person they killed, they've jeopardized the creation of Skynet to begin with. And the Terminator now has to do something to make sure Skynet gets created. That doesn't involve just blowing other people away.
Kill the progenitor of Miles Dyson.
Right.
Yeah, like you've accidentally killed Miles Dyson. What do you do? And you can't, and you don't, and this Terminator doesn't have its own time machine to go back. Well, then you have to find a way to make sure that his work or whatever he was going to do is going to get.
What we just came up with? We came up with a Back to the Future scenario where the Terminator has to go back in time to stop itself from killing Miles Dyson's great grandfather.
Well, that's the thing, it can't because it's stuck there.
Exactly, it's a loop.
I think that.
I think that away from time travel. I don't think you need it in the franchise anymore.
I think that moving forward to, like, it would be, and I know we've been talking about doing the Matrix, but like, I think it would be an interesting if you did a trilogy of these Terminator movies that they've been trying to do 3 times. If you did it and then it ended with like, and then Skynet was no more. And then you left it for like 15 years, but they won't, although they did with The Matrix. So who knows? Like, I just think that every time I watch these movies and every time we've been talking about them, we've been saying, so they made Terminator 1 and 2, and they were amazing. And the rest here on Terminator Isle. It's like we're done. It's over. There is nowhere to go. If your crux is John Connor, well, we've already killed John Connor. We made John Connor the bad guy. Well, this was baked into the first 2 movies that everyone loves. And now it's going to go fight a RoboCop. I guess.
And
why?
One of the reasons why Salvation as a trilogy would have worked is because it kind of goes back to my earlier point, the limitations of mankind versus the limitations of what Skynet has in that timeline. Because if you were to do another Terminator set today, then the allegory has to be artificial intelligence, and you can't have the excuse of not having a Terminator not being able to connect to the Wi-Fi. Because that is the only other thing that the Terminator should be able to do, connect to the Wi-Fi. So
but that's
the reason why I said about sending it back further in the past is because that limitation is what makes it interesting. Because the Terminator's only recourse is to be a bulldozer, and everybody else has to come up with a way of taking down the bulldozer. Once it connects to the Wi-Fi, it's done. That's it. You can't.
But that's what I thought was interesting in terms of that sort of motel conversation, is that because Grace being the protector and Sarah being sort of the local guide who was like, there are cameras everywhere, Wi-Fi. If there is a possibility of accessing us, it will find it because it will get it. And I thought that is something that actually built up the tension. I think the tension and the action, the special effects and the performances are great in this movie. The only problem happens to be is that the framework of the story is just, it doesn't fly in a science fiction way, and Terminator is a science fiction franchise. And it just doesn't, you can't just say, you can't turn this into a big explosions movie, even though, because in 1992, Terminator 2 was the biggest action movie in the world. That doesn't mean it's an action movie franchise, but people with like soft brains are like, why was Terminator so epic? And it's like, because of the special effects, because of the explosions, because of the guns. And it's like, no, it's because it actually had, the first one was a love story, and the second one was, it was about family, to quote the late, great Carrie Fisher.
I don't know if the first one was a love story, but...
Of course it was a love story.
Was it? I mean, yeah.
I consider it to be one, yes.
Yeah.
Well,
but I
I
think the
wouldn't
problem
call it a love story, but you'd be hard pressed to find someone who can make the argument and talk them out of it. So
It's
yeah,
a sci-fi horror movie with
yeah,
a love story attached.
it's a
the
neo horror movie.
As long as it's in there, buddy. As long as it's in there.
It's
the
in there.
problem with this franchise as a sci-fi is that science fiction is all about posing new and interesting ideas, but with all these sequels, they're not adding any new ideas. It's just
Right.
It's like choose which version of this identical story you like best to watch, and that's basically all it's had to offer for quite a while now.
That's interesting.
And here's the thing about doing the modern thing with AI. It's like, well, Skynet is already AI. It became AI self-aware, and then it's like, oh, if you do it again, it's just doing the same thing you've already commenting on the same thing you've already been speculating since 1984.
It was AI as far back as Rise of the Machines. It was AI. It got into the internet, General.
Well, that's what I'm saying. It was the same thing, and then with Genesis, because it was going to get into the whole social and the whole media account. So it's like, yeah, people are talking about AI being more relevant today, but that wouldn't change what the Terminator movies have already been commenting on. Even like, with everybody praising, like, say, Blade Runner 2049, it's repeating a lot of the same things they already covered in the first movie 35 years earlier. It's like You're not really reinventing the wheel or throwing anything wildly new in terms of a concept there.
Yeah, but
I don't want to get into a Blade Runner conversation right now.
I'm saying it's the thing where that's the problem with this particular
franchise. I disagree with your analysis, but I don't want to get into it right now.
I don't disagree that artificial intelligence in name hasn't been done. Yes, you're right. It's already been done since the first movie. Yeah. I'm talking about, while that is true, our modern perception of AI is generated images. That's our modern perception. So maybe it's a matter of making a Terminator movie, but the question is what's real and what's not. And then you can have a whole existential crisis about what it means to be a machine and what it means to be alive. Going back to Terminator 3 about desire is irrelevant. I am a machine.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Meanwhile, there's AI Scott right there.
Yeah, I think if I talked about this last week, doing a live, die, repeat style, Groundhog Day style Terminator movie, and then we also talked about going back and seeing the creation of the time travel machine, how that functions. I think I would write a three movie arc leading right up to the beginning of the Matrix, where basically at the end of that trilogy of movies, as hard as humanity might, it's just never going to work, right? Mm. And it doesn't work until the Matrix, until Neo, who is JC John Connor, it's all they're all the same.
Could you imagine a storyline where machines win, all of mankind is gone, the savior, no savior, we won, everything is gone. Then the Terminator evolves, rebuilds society, goes from endoskeleton to biomechanical to actually giving birth to its own species, and then 2,000 years into their future, the machines that they create turned against them, and it turns into all the next cycle.
Yeah, or they realize that they have to take a hominid and manipulate their DNA to actually create humans again because they need them. Right?
Yes.
And then it starts Genesis, the real Genesis, all over again. That would be a really cool concept.
It's like the comic book Superman Red Sun. When you get to the last page, it's like, oh, he didn't go to another planet. He just went back in time to start over.
Right? And there's a theory out there. I think Joe Rogan actually talks about this, but it's that maybe that's the underlying kind of concept of life is for us to create AI, get to a point where it creates AI and it's and then it just the cycle repeats over and over throughout eons and millennia, right? That you get, and it just, that's how it self-perpetuates. But it starts as, a single cell organism. It starts all over again, right? And on all these different universes or planets or, it's a very interesting theory, right? That it's just one big cycle.
Yeah, I don't know if that's a conceit of humanity to create AI.
What's that?
I don't know if that's the conceit or concept of all humanity, just to create AI. But
yeah, but I mean,
also, you know what's funny? I think I also described the plot for the rebooted Battlestar Galactica.
Right.
So it's funny how it just comes to me. I'm like, wait, I think I just described something else, and I didn't just realize it until just now. The other thing is that Christian Bale is still around.
He is.
Bryce Dallas Howard is still around. Common is still around. You can pick up where you left off with Salvation and go back to the war. It's there. Just write him a nice big check and actually get a good script writer.
Eugene says, "Oh yeah, the humans send a human from the past to kill the machines in the future, or to kill the Terminator before they're put in the time machine."
But they did that in Genesis. They made a time machine and they went to 2007 or 2000. When did they go? Remember when Daenerys? 2017, right?
2015.
Oh,
yeah,
I keep forgetting. I keep forgetting.
Oh yeah.
If you want to see the true third Terminator 3, this is it. Yes. This is Terminator 3.
Yes.
And then it doesn't end satisfactorily either.
It doesn't, because we never got that follow-up.
I know.
It sucks too, man, because it was the best thing that
Bryce.
Oh yeah.
First two.
Old Man Bird gets it. Redheads. Hey, chunky redheads.
That post-baby era of Bryce Dallas Howard. Mwah.
I celebrate her entire career.
Oh, so what ratings do we give this out of 10?
Oh. I don't even remember what I gave Genesis. I think I gave it like a 6. So I would give this
Genesis a 7, I think.
Did I give this a 7? Well, I'm dropping Genesis to a 6 because I hadn't seen this yet. And I'm dropping Genesis to a 6 and I'm giving this a 7.
What do you give it, Steve?
6.
Yeah, I give it 6 as well.
I'm going to go with Cat on 6 because I don't know about you, Cat, but when I saw this movie, I was just sitting there emotionless, just watching stuff happen. I'm like, where are we going with this? Every single scene was, where are we going with this? And then when there was a spark of, oh, nope, that was fleeting.
And honestly, like I am a fan of Genesis. I know you guys gave it 4. You gave Genesis 4s.
Yeah.
But like my thing is that I like Genesis as a story until we make John Connor a bad guy. And then when you couple that, like that's the one thing that I hate about that movie. And honestly, if you compare Genesis to Dark Fate, the action in Dark Fate is so much fucking better. And so if you're going to have to deal with bad writing or bad storytelling, you might as well have the strobe light of awesome explosions. Like that whole detention center fight, that was fucking hardcore. That was better than anything in Genesis in terms of action.
I agree. Genesis, there was some concepts there that just execution was bad, and they didn't deliver on the some of the core concepts that I think would have really made that movie amazing.
But again, it's like an argument about, it's like, so which do you prefer? Hard poo or soft poo? Warm poo or cold poo?
You know how there's always going to, how people are always talking about people who made bad career choices in their acting careers and someone else took over, and then they, like instead of Matt Damon taking Avatar, it went to Sam Worthington and stuff like that. The guy who plays Miles Dyson's son in Genesis turned down to being in Star Wars episode 7 to go to do Terminator Genesis. So there is a timeline, since we're talking about, there is a time where he would have gone to play FN 217, and then John Boyega would have been in Genesis. There is a timeline where that could have happened.
Well, we lucked out.
Unless he's a big Terminator fan and wanted to do that, because if you're not,
I'm just saying, you turned down the opportunity to be in Star Wars,
a co-lead, and that's what I mean. Like, you could be a diehard Terminator fan, and that would make sense. But to turn down one of the co-leads in Star Wars, which you already knew was going to be a trilogy, I don't know.
Like, even if you wouldn't have had a career after the trilogy, you would have been set for life.
Yeah, for sure.
Maybe. I know they didn't get paid much on the first one. Maybe.
I know, but you still would go to conventions. You would still do signings. You would be a name in the brand that you were starting in. It's so, like, damn.
I'm gonna now rank these films because I've just
done
that. In last place, 6th. Bearing in mind, I have not seen the Sarah Connor. I'm not counting the TV shows or the Netflix.
No.
Yeah.
In 6th place, Genesis. Because of all the reasons we already stated. 5th place, Salvation. 4th place, Dark Fate, because I think the action's better than Salvation. Actually, no, excuse me. Salvation, Dark Fate's 5th place. 4th place is Salvation. That's where I got that back. Next one. 3rd, I put Terminator 3 because I so love the ending. Like, actually seeing the rise of the machine, seeing Judgment Day. The action in it was good, and I liked that part of it. 2nd is the original, and then T2 is my favorite.
Hey, Daniel's Hot Topics is here. Hey. Daniel says that he loves Terminator Dark Fate and was shocked when Arnold T-101 killed John Connor.
Yeah, I know.
I heard about it before. Someone spoiled it.
Oh, that sucks.
Yeah.
I'll go next.
Yeah.
My list, and I'll pop it in the chat right now too. So I'll go the other way. So my favorite is T2, then 1, then 4, then 6, then 3, then 5. That's my ranking.
T. Martinez.
Fun fact that the first Terminator is the only one in the franchise called The Terminator. Everything else is just Terminator.
It's just Terminator.
Oh, that's true. That's true.
Yeah. I mean, for me, I'm looking at the whole franchise in this one list, where all of it is on one list. So I would go Judgment Day, The Terminator. I would actually put Rise of the Machines next, then Salvation, then Dark Fate, and then Genesis.
Okay, you got the same as my list then.
Yeah. Now, well, if I were to add Sarah Connor and Terminator Zero, they would be somewhere in the middle.
Totes. But we're like, I'm not. Yeah, it's an unfair. It's an unfair advantage to have the Chronicles.
Chronicles would be 3rd on my list.
Oh yeah, and that's both seasons, and that is also an unfair advantage because you got 2 seasons.
Right.
But yeah, no, it would go. It would go. Well, see, I'm gonna go. I really appreciate Terminator 1. And I've had this argument with John from Cinema Gulp. And so that's why my 1 and 2 are 1 and 2. It depends on which day of the week it is. Some days I like The Terminator, and other times I like Terminator 2. My number 3 is Dark Fate. My number 4 is Genesis. My number 5 is Rise of the Machines. And pulling up the hind quarters is Salmation.
Interesting.
Yeah. You know, from what I understand, the world don't move from the beat of just one drum. What might be right for you may not be right for some.
Daniel's Hot Topics agrees that his favorite Terminator would be the original.
You know, and it's because I'm a selfish individual, and when I do think about it, and it's like, ooh, 1 hour and 50 minutes, or ooh, 2 hours and 40 minutes. It's like,
for me, it's a pick 'em. It's kind of this year it's 2, next year it might be 1. Yeah. It kind of goes like that.
I really like Michael Biehn.
Option of, do I want dark chocolate or milk chocolate?
Sure. Yeah, no, that's a good analogy. Yeah.
The Terminator is dark chocolate, and Judgment Day is milk chocolate.
I feel like that they also didn't try and repeat certain dialogue. Like, they had the opportunity for Grace to say, "Come with me if you want to live," and they didn't do it. So she's like, "Come with me if you want to live past the next 30 seconds or whatever." And then later in the movie, when Arnold says, "I won't be back," when he told him, he says, "I told him I won't be back."
You knew how true that was, Schwarzenegger.
But I really but what you say in jest, I say with the same emotional gravitas that Old Man Bird said, is that it did give sort of that pathos to Carl. And no matter how we got to Carl, it was a situation where it was like, what did you tell them? And it's like, my past caught up with me. We have to go. It's not safe for them here because you are here. My past has caught up with me, and I won't be back. And I thought that was a really good way. It wasn't the same way that they've used I'll Be Back or Come With Me If You Want to Live in all the subsequent movies post T2. Like it did actually. That was probably one of the best written lines in all of Dark Fate.
You know what's also sad? The Terminator 3D ride is a better sequel to Judgment Day.
Yeah.
Because I know it's stupid, but because you can go on YouTube and find the whole thing. I just love that one line where Schwarzenegger shoots one of the T-800s, and he's like, "Friend of yours? He was my college roommate." Yeah, and it's a stupid line because I'm like, "Wait, college? What?" but it works. It works.
I like Daniel's Hot Topics has his list. It says that his number 1 is the Terminator. Number 2 is T2. Number 3 is Genesis. 4 is Dark Fate. 5 is Salvation. And then Rise of the Machines. Christina Loken or Christiana. I forget how you say her name.
Christiana.
It's cool.
I like
oh my god, we had to wait 11 years between T2 and T3. Well, that's the thing. Yeah. I don't think anybody was waiting or expecting for Terminator 3.
Right.
Yeah. And T3 was the one where I was talking about why me and my father didn't like it because it was way too jokey, especially with the strip club scene.
Yeah.
Talk to the hand.
I care for that movie.
But I am with Kat when it comes to the end of that movie. But when I want to put it into my ranking, like the only reason it is in there is because of the end.
Yeah. You want to make a final stamp on the franchise? You could, theoretically, I'm not saying just run with it or not, it just came to me. You could have a scene. Let's say you bring Christian Bale back, right? Bring Christian Bale back to be John Connor. Bring everybody back. Your opening scene is he's sleeping with Bryce Dallas, and he has this nightmare that he's being hunted down by the Terminator, but he's living the experience of the other movies because they've sent so many back in time. It's happening so many times that now you're having that reverberation of messing with the timeline. And the storyline here is we have to destroy the time machine. Otherwise, we're all going to die. Like everything is going to die if we don't end it. Like you don't want to like clean the slate, but you actually want to acknowledge everything that happened before. There's your plot line, at least for this story. It's reverberating back into the war, and it's killing John Connor because he's the central focal point of it.
Well, that seems to be where I think the second movie after Salvation would have been not only building the time machine to send Kyle Reese back and then to send the T-800 back, but then end the movie destroying the time machine so it can't happen anymore. Mm-hmm. And for whatever reason, because in either if you say that Terminator 3 still exists in that continuity and Judgment Day happened anyway, then you'd have the third Salvation movie be the ultimate demise of Skynet and the ultimate victory of the human resistance.
But you can't.
I think you do the B plot. The B plot would be with Skynet realizing that we don't just build one time machine; we need to build many.
Yeah.
Right.
And then it implodes.
Too vulnerable. Boom.
And then it becomes a black hole.
And then that kind of gives backstory to why all these Terminators keep after
Daniel's Hot Topic says multiverse, baby. It can all be canon.
Yeah.
It's funny that you say that because when I read it, I thought it said multiverse eBay. It can all be canon. It's like buy your own adventure.
Buy the camera. It's only $999.
Well,
there you go.
It basically is multiverse eBay, Scott, because of all the movies that are the sequels all have identical plots.
Look, we're talking about multiverse, but the Terminator franchise is what inspired the Android saga and the Cell saga in the Dragon Ball Z series by Akira Toriyama. He was such a big fan that he created an entire storyline based on the Terminator, where they had to fight the androids and save the future. And the hero, the John Connor of their story, he goes back in time to warn everybody about the androids, but it doesn't fix his future. Therefore, it is multiverse theory.
Yeah, which is because when they were writing this movie, I think they still thought of time travel as still linear.
Yeah,
right.
It was the 80s,
and not multiverse. But that changed. But
yeah, and again, there is no rules to time travel. It's what you make it, but you got to stick to your own rules.
as long as you stick to the rules you set up in your universe.
Daniel says, have Christian Bale sleeping with his hot red wife and bring back Claire Danes, and Christian Bale is dreaming of the events of the other movies. He saw it all.
And he had it all.
Giggity.
And then when it all resets, he wakes up and he has neither, and he's with Danny.
Well,
I guess,
but it's also it's kind of weird, just because like around this time when this came out, this was around when we were getting like Neil Blomkamp making the real Alien 3, because everyone's all pissy about Alien 3 because they pooped their diapers and the baby people. But like and they were like, oh no, we're just going to ignore everything that happened after Aliens and just make our Alien 3. And that had developed a lot of hype, and then it fell apart. But this one sort of did. I guess there were less cooks in the kitchen, less producers involved, because you don't have to deal with Ridley Scott and James Cameron. It's just James Cameron.
It's funny. It's funny you mention Alien 3, because that's kind of what they do at the beginning of Dark Fate when they just kill John Connor. They do their own Alien 3.
Same deal.
I don't know why, but now I want it. I want a James Cameron produced Terminator sequel with Ridley Scott at the helm.
I don't know, man.
No, I want it. I want it just to see what
you can have
those two egos can come up with.
Or not. I was super excited for a Neil Blomkamp Alien movie, but just not to replace Alien 3.
One thing I want to see about Neil Blomkamp's Unmade is to see an alien queen with a barcode on its forehead that it's owned by Weyland Yutani.
Right.
Oh, but they're like, and that's the thing. And when it comes,
barcode.
And just to sort of step outside of now that we're talking about multiverses and choose your own adventures and whatever you want, like there is so much fiction out there, and I don't care if it's canon. Like to try and piece together Terminator canon is nary impossible. Yeah. Like how do you reconcile any of this in terms of being one cohesive franchise? It's almost like the Terminator movies, once beyond Terminator 2, you are dealing with like individual adventures with the characters that you know thrust into something that is completely different. It's James Bond logic. It's like, oh, now it's Timothy Dalton, but that's a different guy. It's like we don't have a cohesive canon, nor does it make any sense once you get past Terminator 2.
Well, the difference is that the Bond movies aren't trying to make you think it's a cohesive canon. They just use the same actors for the associates and stuff just because people like them. It's not like, for instance, when they brought in all the Q gadgets for Die Another Day, it was a wink at the camera, fourth wall thing, whereas the Terminator movies are trying to make you do all these mental gymnastics to...
No, I think that they're trying to further the product in a McDonald's way, that you just order a new Terminator, they give you the Happy Meal, and you go on your way. This isn't meant to be cohesive. There is no canon. Like, there is nothing that holds it together, even remotely.
You know why? Eugene Bird said it best. Because money.
Because money.
But I'm saying
that's what the money is for.
You say that, but I'm saying the fact that the characters keep talking about it by asking, well, where are you from? Or how did this happen? And they keep blatantly referring to the events of the other movies to explain how they're all together. then it kind of is asking you to remember and tie it all in.
It is, because it has Terminator on the banner, on the masthead, and it is saying, you remember this? You remember this? We're trying to weave it together. It's a multiverse. Even in Genesis, they do this weak sauce thing where it's like, I remembered going backwards in time and someone told me that Genesis is Skynet. And so they even tried to say that the thing that they were setting up in the first of 3 movies that never came to fruition, they were saying, no, Genesis is Skynet. We just renamed it. And that's the same thing they're doing with Legion.
Daniel's Hot Topic says, oh my God, did you hear this could actually happen in a way? Right now, the American government is working on quantum computers and AI. If they connect it to the internet, they can erase everything.
As long as they keep making PBR, I'm going to be okay.
That is my only contribution to that post.
No, I love the thought. I love the thought, Daniel. Don't take any guff from these swine.
Oh no, I am being nice.
Like it can erase all money, can have no more value, or credit cards won't work. We may have to buy gold to survive.
Well, that was the interesting thing about Dark Fate, is that I really enjoyed. It's just like, what happened? It's like nothing happened. Everything turned off. And then you see a plane land, like crash. And I was like, really? He couldn't have done a better job. Like, can't you? I've seen Flight with Denzel Washington. It looked like you could do stuff with no hydraulics and power. Like, maybe you could actually do something.
You have to be drunk. You have to be drunk.
Either way, it's all like, again, everything I learned about flying jet airliners is from movies. But like, and the thing, and then they thought that they could eliminate it with EMPs. But then the launch of the nuclear weapons made it so that the entire world was at war. Like, everyone was pissy about everything. And Legion sat back and said, no, let them fucking kill each other. We don't have to do much. Let's go build more drones with guns on them. And that's what Legion did. I liked that idea. It was a little abstract, maybe. I don't know. But I liked that idea of Legion just being like, just turn off their shit. They'll fuck each other up until the cows come home.
Yeah, so while the Terminator movies will always, with the advantage of technology, remain culturally relevant, they haven't had much new to contribute to the conversation with each installment. But I think the thing that will still keep it exciting and that what people love about it is, of course, those first 2 movies. Yeah, how badass, I'll be back, and then the action, all that stuff is fantastic. It's just that.
But unfortunately, a lot of people, if you tell them what year it was made, they're not going to watch it.
Yeah.
Which I just don't get that. I just don't get that line of thinking. Honestly, I really don't. It pisses me off that if you tell them what year it came out, it's like, oh yeah, then I'm not going to watch it. I'm like, wait, what?
I think it's crazy when people won't watch a movie because it's black and white. It's just insane to me. But
unless you tell me it was made this year, they might peek at it, but they might not watch it.
Right.
Yeah, I read that a lot of people were criticizing that new Ripley series that was done on Netflix, Talented Mr. Ripley series, and a bunch of people on Twitter and Instagram or whatever were saying that, oh, I gave it a shot, it's really good, but I can't keep watching it because it's black and white. I'm like, unless it's like an artistic reason to criticize the choice of black and white, where it would have been better in color, I could see that.
Yeah.
But to say that you can't watch it, something that you're actively talking about liking the content, but it's black and white, so I can't keep watching.
And that is the same person that will pull out their phone, turn on their Instagram filter, put it in monochrome, whatever.
Right.
It would be like, look at what I created. And I'm like, and yet you can't sit and watch something that is not in living color.
Right.
You idiot.
But you'll catch her angle like that, right?
You know what? You're right. You're your own person. You're not something you go do your OnlyFans because that's all you're good for.
Daniel says, I love black and white movies, and I really like the old Batman show from the 40s.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
Oh, yeah, with
the serials, yeah, totes. Well, and I just got over my aversion, and it was like something that I've been trying to do, is getting over my aversion for super long movies. And when I say super long, like movies that are over 3.5 hours. And So I saw Michael Cimino's Heaven's Gate, and that was fucking phenomenal. I got the Criterion Blu-ray on that one. Yesterday I just watched Sergio Leone's Once Upon a Time in America. That was 3 hours and 49 minutes, and it blew me away. And then people are like, and I love those sort of cinematic journeys, and that's something that I was just getting over. Both 80s movies, but it's like if it's over 3.5 hours, I'm not watching it. And then I remembered that I hate watching streaming series because at least movies end. Sorry?
I can't believe this one from Bird. I tried to get my kids to watch Caddyshack. They left. I was like, no, wait, it's funny, I swear.
Yeah, right. It is.
I don't know, man. I don't know. That's interesting. It depends on how old your kids are.
You know what? I'm gonna side with Scott on this. It really depends on the time, the place, and the right. You got to catch them at the right time, because my dad wanted me to watch Caddyshack 2, and the first time he tried, I was like, "My dad, you think this is funny?" Like, I wasn't laughing.
Oh, you mean Caddyshack, like the original or the sequel?
The original.
Yeah, the original.
Yeah.
So God bless my dad. He wanted me to. You want to watch a real comedy? Let's watch Caddyshack. So I'm sitting there and I'm waiting for the comedy to happen. Like, it's not hitting. And I think my dad got frustrated, and then he changed the channel, and we just continue. Right?
That's a 5-star comedy. That's a 5-star comedy for me right there.
Yeah.
But follow me on this one. So tried and failed first time. Second time we're sitting down. And I think my dad I'm not saying he has dementia or anything, but he kind of had like a little bloop. He forgot that he tried. And then we're sitting down and he turns on the channel and the movie is there. It's just starting. And we watch it from start to finish and we both had a blast.
Nice.
Yeah. Yes.
So I think it's less that they're not going to like it. It's that you really have to catch them at the right time to watch that specifically, because there are some.
How old were you?
There are. This was pre-social media. That's all I can say. Pre-social media.
I was probably, maybe 8 or 9. You know
what? This was pre-iPhone. This was pre-iPhone. Pre-YouTube.
Yeah, I was like 9 or 10 when I saw this movie. I loved it. I still love it.
Yeah, and again, I like it. The thing is that whenever it was, you caught me at the wrong time to think I was going to laugh at this, and then a few years later, we caught it and we actually had bonded over it.
Cool.
Also, as far as purchases goes, these are kid you not, for the first time in my life, I had the worst year when it came to purchasing physical media, and Kat can attest to this because she knows I would buy a lot of them. I only bought 4 things. That's how bad it was.
Wow.
I bought 4 things yesterday.
The Steelbook to Wind River.
Love that movie.
Never seen it.
The Steelbook to Horizon.
Oh, cool.
Never seen it.
The Steelbook to the Winter Soldier and Falcon.
Oh, the Captain and the Winter Soldier.
And everyone's favorite Black Horse surprise.
Oh, yeah.
Godzilla -1.
Those are good all right there.
The Steelbook.
Yeah.
Oh, nice.
And 2024 was such a crazy, busy second half that they're all still sealing their plastic.
Oh, wow. Well, hey, idle hands, they say.
Whereas this was my first purchase for 2025.
Nice.
Yeah. You know what was my first purchase that I'm not getting and I got a refund for because the seller that was mailing it broke halfway through while it was being delivered? No fault from the seller, but the seller said, no, I'm sorry, I don't want to give you a faulty product. I'm giving you your money back. It was the Steelbook for Anaconda.
Really?
The original with John Voight?
Yes.
Huh.
By the way, we should do an Anaconda stream because I guess Jack Black and Paul Rudd are doing a comedy version of it. I have no fucking idea how that's going to look. I'm afraid.
I don't know either.
I am afraid. Ridiculous. I am so afraid of what that monstrosity is going to look like now. Yeah. I think it's because of how they announced it. They announced it in such a very, we're about to what are you doing, a comedy or what?
What?
Yeah, I don't really have any interest.
She is still hot. That woman has aged like fine wine. I don't give a shit about her personal life.
Oh man, Out of Sight is the best Jennifer Lopez movie that has ever existed ever.
Yeah, and the thing with people not wanting to watch long movies is like, well, if it's paced well and you like the movie, I mean, I get there's a feeling when people watch something that's like that was really good, but it didn't necessarily need to be that long. Yeah. Like I just had that with the Brutalist.
I was just gonna say the Brutalist.
Part 1's an hour 40 minutes. Part 2, hour 40 with credits. You get a 15-minute intermission.
I get to see it, so.
Yep, and no spoilers. Part 1's magnificent.
Next week at the AMC, so I'm gonna watch it next week.
Yeah, Part 1's magnificent. Part 2 kind of loses me a lot. That's what a lot of people have been saying.
Yeah, but
it's like paced very well. But I'm sitting there thinking, did this need to be a 3.5-hour movie? No. It's like it's just. But that's the thing. It comes down to. It even has the word overture at the beginning for the music because they want you to feel like it's one of those old epics. I know.
Yeah.
Well, it's like Blonde that Ana de Armas Marilyn Monroe movie. What was that? That was like 3 hours at least.
Like 245, 250 or something like that.
And I remember seeing that on Netflix, and then I was like, I'm not watching this. And then I saw it was rated X, and I was like, oh, I'll give it a shot.
Here's the thing. I think for a lot of people, if they already know that they're about to sit down for something that's 3 hours, if not 3 hours plus,
right,
and they're willing to make that choice, that's fine. The problem is if they are watching the movie and they actually start checking out their watch, you're failing the audience member that made the decision because they were ready for it, but your pacing sucks.
No, but this is also something that I think that is a matter of the venue, and especially when you're considering films from like 1984. Yeah. Like you're talking about people who didn't have access to home media. This was a matter of, are you going to go to the theater and watch it? Like, think of Lawrence of Arabia or Gone with the Wind. And I only cite those, not because I think that Heaven's Gate or Once Upon a Time in America are equivalent, but I think that they are both epics that the audience of the time that they were released, it is demanded for them to go to an exhibition of that film. It's not something you throw on your phone or on your television while you're vacuuming or ordering a pizza, or you can't pause it. That's why I like the theater experience, is because it demands your attention.
But at the same time, the movie has to be fucking good.
And the movie has to be fucking good. Absolutely. No argument.
Movies of all time are pushing 3 hours, if not longer.
Old Man Bird, what's going on, man?
Big super chat. Panel sounds like they're having fun tonight. Absolutely.
Oh, fuck yeah. It's because I'm.
Don't you remember? You already got on the bus. You don't have to buy another ticket.
Right.
Don't tell them that.
Appreciate it, though.
I do appreciate it. You're too generous.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, it's also Blue. Yeah, she's like, she's checked out, but she's
tuckered out.
Well, that's it. We're out of time, everybody.
Yeah.
I'm joking. How's the basement life going, Scotty?
Sorry?
How's the basement life going?
Oh, no, it's fine. It's fine. I got movies.
Open.
That reminds me. I'll show it off on the show. Scotty, so like a year and a half ago, Scott asked my address because he wanted to send me something, but then he forgot or whatever. And I'm like, and he mentioned he got a mystery package from somebody last month. I'm like, who'd you get it from? He's like, I don't know. And that reminded me that, hey, weren't you going to send me something? He's like, yeah. So he sent me this all the way from Canada. A Mace Windu action figure from Attack of the Clones.
Nice.
This is awesome. Nice. I didn't have this one in my collection.
Perfect.
Hey, Kat, can you show them what I sent you for Christmas?
It is in... Oh, that is downstairs, but I will bring it next week for the...
Oh, yeah.
For whatever we're doing. But that's
for whatever we're doing. Actually, that's a perfect segue. Also, the reason that I sent you that and the reason I thought that you would enjoy it is it has 2 lightsabers. It has the ignited, and it's got the little guy, so he's just holding the hilt. It's great. Woo-hoo. I thought it was really cool, and I thought you would enjoy it.
Yeah, this part already slid off, so it's okay.
That's fine.
But does it say motherfucker?
Yeah.
No, but it's makes he doesn't have to literally say it. He just his entire embodiment just already says it.
Is this one of those funny watching a movie with my dad that has Samuel L. Jackson? My dad will say it's like motherfucker. He just says like Tourette's.
May the force be with you, motherfucker.
Motherfucker.
I mean, he was the only person who actually got to. He told George, "Hey, I know you usually do like green and blue lightsabers for good guys and red for bad, but I want an amethyst lightsaber." Okay, because he's Sam Jackson, because he's that cool. He can demand his own lightsaber color.
And after that, we got yellow, we got orange, and white.
And dark. We got a dark saber.
Dark saber.
Yeah,
Dark saber that has white all around. White. What's the point of dark if I still see white?
No, that's great. That's great. I'm glad
I get technologically why it makes sense, but it's like what's the point of a dark saber if there's a white edge all over it?
Right. Energy.
Yeah, I guess. Science is shit.
Science.
Well, yeah, but it's not like Star Wars isn't science. It's fantasy.
Star Wars is science fiction.
Fantasy science. Yeah. Fantasy science.
Science fantasy.
Science fantasy. That's what I meant. Sorry.
Yeah. No, we're cool. We're cool.
Star
it's fun.
Trek is sci-fi. Star Wars is science fantasy.
Right. That's my understanding.
You can explain Star Trek. You have to go up a mountain to explain Star Wars. I can explain Star Trek, and
I think we've ventured way off topic for long enough.
No, we're still in the realm.
We're still in the realm of sci-fi.
We're still in the realm. Star Wars and everything came from that 20-year spectacular that was the 70s to the 80s.
Well,
even the 90s to a degree.
Well, I have heard incredible things about the animated Terminator show. I have to see that. So that is Terminator media that I haven't seen. I've heard the new first-person shooter for the Terminator video game is actually quite good in terms of being an action stealth first-person shooter. And again, I've been touting the Sarah Connor Chronicles, as has everyone here, who's seen it, and even the people who haven't, who want to. And I think that this is a franchise that, as Eugene Bird says, if they make a new one, will I see it? Yes. How high will be my hopes? Not very.
Not very.
Well, the question is, would you see it opening night?
No.
No.
It depends.
Cheap Tuesday.
It really depends on the director and the idea behind it.
I just logged the movie again today on my Letterboxd account, and there was a review on there from somebody else who also logged it today, who said Genesis and the previous sequels just repeating themselves left a bad enough taste in his mouth that he waited until now, 5 years after, before he could bring himself to watch it.
Wow. Yeah.
It's like,
you know what movie I still haven't watched? The Social Network.
Well, the only reason I got Terminator Dark Fate, the only reason I saw it is because it was cheaper for me to buy a Blu-ray box set of all 6 Terminator movies than it was to collect them all individually. I had the DVDs and whatnot, and now that they had come together in the 6 film volume, I had seen all of the other 5, and this was the first time that I had seen 6. I had been warned away from it. I had preconceptions based on the death of John Connor within the first fucking 10 minutes. And I was like, there's no way. And then I watched it and I was like, people are too strict or too ginger with their franchises. What were you expecting with the time-traveling robot slasher movie, as you said, Steve? What did you want? Sophie's Choice? Did you want Schindler's List? This is a fucking action movie. It started as a horror, like a techno cyberpunk horror, and it turned into an action movie.
What is so
and
funny?
It exploded further and further into just being action spectacle. No, I'm gonna go have a smoke while you go give a hand job to your dog.
Seriously, what the fuck do you mean by being so ginger?
Tender?
Soulless?
Gentle?
Soulless, is that what you meant?
Gentle, ginger.
Yeah,
really, that's what you meant, gentle with ginger?
Yeah,
but that's an actual term.
Or did I just wake up in a new reality?
No, that's an actual term.
Yeah, ginger is a term for soft touch or.
Yeah.
You gotta be fucking kidding me, really?
Yeah,
okay, you look it up while I smoke.
No, I will look it up because God, I'm sorry for breaking the flow, but he just said ginger, and I'm like, wait, what?
Yeah,
because when I hear ginger,
gingerly, soft touch.
Ginger,
yeah.
When people say ginger in a derogatory term, I think they mean soulless, not soft, just soulless.
Oh, yeah, no.
So that's my connection to when people call, oh, you're a ginger, aren't you? When they're being mean-spirited about it. You're soulless.
Yeah, so it's dual meanings.
Okay. So ginger, soulless, gentle, and if you rearrange the words, you're saying a hate crime.
Yeah.
Have we done a hate crime?
No, you know what's funny? When it suddenly hit me that if you rearrange the letters of the word ginger to get the other one, I was at the comic book store, and the guy who was I haven't seen him in a while, but he and I became very good friends because he always sold me the comic books every Wednesday, and he saw me and I had this deadpan look, and he's like, "Bro, what's wrong?" I'm like, "I just came to a realization, and I can't believe it took me all this time to realize it." And he's black, so this is why I'm making it a point. Right. He's like, "What did you realize?" The word ginger. And by saying that specifically, he just clicked it too. I was like, oh.
Yeah, right.
And we both just started laughing when we realized it.
And it has a specific, all of that has a specific tie into what's happening in comic books and comic book movies with those characters too, which is mind blowing. But
yeah, when you really sit down,
that's for another time. A topic for another channel.
A topic for another time. But boy, this is why I like these streams, because we enter these realms out of nowhere.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. Sorry, it's like sometimes when something really hits and it catches me that off guard, I can't stop laughing. It just happens.
Yeah.
That's when you hear a joke that's not that funny, but it's funny to you when you keep crying and you can't stop crying. Mm-hmm. Like right now, I got tears.
I was saying that reminds me of something else from Rollerball, the original, but I'm not going to mention on this.
Yeah. Well, if the stream would have been demonetized before I got here, so we can probably see how far we can push this.
Right.
As Catherine once told me, Ernesto, maybe you should stop saying Special Needs Britannica so much. But it's funny, Cat. That's why I keep saying it. Special Needs Britannica. That's where Ray Aura belongs. Ray Aura always opening his mouth more and more these days.
Ray's funny.
The moment you say Moonfall, his cheeks go red.
James Gunn's Supergirl, Woman of Tomorrow starts production. Yes.
Started today.
The Odyssey starts production this month as well.
Yep. And then Swamp Thing might be a standalone, might not be, but everybody's just having a day. I'm
pretty sure it's going to be. It makes sense. Totally makes sense to be outside. I mean, it's all, it's part of the
I think it's just going to be
part of the DCU. It's part of Gunn and Safran's DCU, but it's not going to be in continuity with that, or it's not going to be part of that, the connected universe.
I think it'll be. It just won't be making references. I think that's what he tried to make because I see a reality where Superman and Mangold Swamp Thing cross paths, but he's not focused on the shared connected work of it. He's focused on, let me tell the story of Holland.
Right. I think that makes a lot of sense to me too. So Mangold's Swamp Thing would be the standalone that then could for movies further down the road in the franchise can pull that character into other movies.
Because I can also see a Justice League Dark happening in this new DCU, and then
I think for sure at some point we're going to get that, because I think a lot of people have been wanting that anyways.
And you know what I want to see? This is just me, because this is one of the greatest Dark Horse character that I followed during the New 52 of the reboot. Animal Man.
Oh yeah.
When Animal Man had the crossover with Swamp Thing, when you had the green, the red, and the black, and you had the Rot World franchise storyline. Oh my God. Mwah.
I wasn't in the New 52.
And both of them were self-contained, but still took place in the New 52. So I think that's what Mangold was trying to say in the interview that he is more focused on just having the self-contained without having to worry about Easter eggs.
Well, he said almost the same exact thing about his Star Wars movie as well. That's why he wanted to go so far back, because he just didn't want to be tied into the lore so much that you can't please anybody, and half of the audience is going to hate you for it, half of the audience, what I mean. So, and I agree wholeheartedly, especially with Star Wars, but DC is in that same space where you can't. I think it's smart for directors like that to say, listen, if you have a singular vision for a character, to do it that way.
Old Man Bird wants a Vader movie or Doc Aphra. Yeah, absolutely. Doc Aphra would be a fun movie.
I want a Vader movie where they tell him, "You're surrounded, Vader." No, Captain. What I am surrounded by is fear and dead men.
Exactly.
But it's interesting. It's interesting that it takes place during our Terminator discussion. Is that I'm 6 and out. Like everything else is just sort of sides.
You are a 6 out of 10.
I just think that once you get through episodes 1 through 6, that's where my interest starts to wane. And I've seen some stuff like I enjoyed, from what I've seen of Andor, and a lot of people have told me about Andor. That's intriguing. I like The Force Awakens, but again, it just seems like a special feature. Once we get past the Lucas era, I'm just like, yeah, this is great. In the same vein as once you get out of the first 2 Terminators, once you get out of Terminator proper, everything else is just,
it's just
things that you pick up at an airport bookstore.
Right.
Yeah.
Daniel's Hot Topic says, I'm worried that the James Gunn DC universe is going to suck. Look, there's a lot writing on Superman, but what we've seen so far looks really good. And if I had to put my trust in anybody right now to kind of shepherd this new iteration of the DCU, it's James Gunn. I wouldn't bet against him. I think it's going to be good.
I'll see a Superman movie. I've seen them all.
Yeah.
In theaters.
Anyone here watch Creature Commandos?
I did. No. Loved it.
I saw it. You know what the twist was going to be? That the princess of that country was going to be Queen Amethyst. Mm-hmm. But it didn't turn out to be that. It was
that's interesting. That
the character design makes her look like Amethyst.
Very interesting. You're right.
At least we know what Clayface.
I'll just say this with no spoilers for people who haven't seen it. The Weasel episode was amazing.
I heard that. It's that it was
amazing, good. But it pisses me off that we have that design for the character after watching that backstory.
I know, right? I get that.
It's the only thing about the character that I hate is how he looks. Because you can't give me a character that looks like that and then break my heart with the backstory. You can't have both. I'm sorry, you can't.
Sure, you can.
No, you can't.
Oh, Daniel.
All right.
Oh, Daniel.
Well, the world don't move.
I get. Look, listen. I still think Henry Cavill is one of my favorite Superman, if not my favorite Superman. But let's watch the movie first before we start saying one's more superior to the other. We don't even know what the corn sweat Superman is yet. So
don't talk smack about Crypto, Daniel.
It might turn out to be awesome. We just don't know yet.
Hey, Daniel.
I mean, but I'm not a cheerleader either. That the movie could suck ass. Who knows?
But I'm just saying, everybody needs a best friend, and mine's over there. Right now.
See, and you're already home, so it worked.
Yeah.
Then, and I the only thing I don't know, I didn't see James Gunn's The Suicide Squad.
Oh,
and
that's a great movie.
Yeah, no, and I know that it's a fantastical sort of Silver Age DC mixed with modern sensibilities.
It was really fun.
Yeah, I've heard nothing but good things. I have no animosity towards it. And I think that is the sort of perspective or prism that we're going to be seeing the James Gunn universe. And hey, I'm going to go see a Superman movie. I love Superman. So I'm going to go see a Superman movie, and I'm not going to know until after the credits roll.
I may not have been the biggest fan of him being announced to head it and do it, but one credit I can give him from the Suicide Squad that is a boon for this new franchise, or the soft reboot of it, is that the Suicide Squad is the most, of all the DCEU, if you want to call it that, it is the most unabashedly comic book adaptation of that franchise.
Yeah. I mean, Starro, for God's sake.
Because of everything he throws in there and you take it at face value, it works. The second one that is unabashedly comic booky is Aquaman.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Because they embrace it and they, like, I'm not poo-pooing on everything else. I'm just saying that if you really look at it as an adaptation, they both take it, run with it. If you don't like it, too bad. We're doing it.
Daniel, I hear what you're saying, but we don't know that his power level is nerfed.
Well, but also I do want to read the chat.
That the Ultraman character is basically Superman clone, so the power level's equal. And that's probably who beat him down himself.
But I do agree with you, Daniel, that DC nerfs Superman to make him more relatable. Yeah, one of the biggest complaints about Superman is that he's invulnerable.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, they do try and nerf him a bit to make it so it's like, oh, no. And it's also the Worf situation from Star Trek The Next Generation. Let's see how badass the villain is, because we'll throw our strongest Titan at him, and then he'll get punched. And in this case, it's Superman. And then he's going to have to rise and return.
A lot of times DC will overpower the villains, and it's silly. Makes it silly. These overpowered villains because you have to have something that can go toe to toe.
And some of the best Superman storylines is like, I can't punch my way out of this.
Right.
I'm going to have to figure this out. And he does at the end of the day. Like, I think one of the best New 52 stories I read before Rebirth took over is Superman having to fight ghosts. Like, how does someone who can punch whatever deal with possessions?
Superman's a couple of really big vulnerabilities besides kryptonite, which seems to be everywhere now. Yeah. Is right the supernatural, right? Either ghosts or magic.
Yeah,
because Superman, at the end of the day, he is a science-based individual. Yeah. When he's up against something that's not of the mortal realm, you would say, it's like, my body's not used to this. Why does it hurt me so much? It's because it's not the mortal realm.
Right.
You can't punch your way out of this one, Superman. You're gonna have to really use your smarts on this one.
See, the more you describe the world of Superman, the more I believe in the world of the Terminator.
It's funny. Scotty,
it's funny because Superman got punched by a Terminator at one point during a crossover.
Oh yeah, no, they've done it. I think there was a DC Dark Horse crossover, and it was Superman versus Terminator.
Crossover with Terminator, then Predator, then both, then all three.
Nice. Yeah. Oh no, it's great. Daniel says, Scotty, have you heard of DC 1 million years? Superman, when Superman outlives everyone like the Justice League, Wonder Woman, Lois Lane, Perry White, Jimmy Olsen, and the rest. So he goes into the sun for 1,000 years. No. I haven't kept up with DC Comics in forever, which is actually disheartening for me because I've been hearing that DC Comics is doing way better than Marvel right now.
That's not surprising.
Old Man Bird says, that scene in Superman Returns where the bullet bounces off of his eye? Hells yes. Liked the Hispanic Supergirl in Flash. Didn't see Flash. Man, that uniform was tight, and she was mad and edgy. I also enjoy.
I'll just say this. Muschietti and I are on the same taste buds of, yeah.
I enjoyed that version of Supergirl.
Yeah. Who was that?
I didn't hate that movie.
Sasha Calle.
Who played that?
Yeah.
Sasha Calle. Yeah. I just told you, Scott.
No, I know.
Now he's looking her up. So.
Now I'm looking up Rule 34.
You should see her sizzle reel.
Sasha Calle.
You should see her sizzle reel where she's modeling for a car ad. and the entire time her hair is wet and she's wearing whatever. I'm just like, why is this video an hour long when it's really only 4 minutes? But why is it an hour long?
Eugene Bird had a good answer before. Because money.
Because money.
Yeah.
Yes. Always because money for these things. We keep running into the ground because money.
Yeah.
Or
even
like
when
Sean
the money
Connery,
isn't there, we will try again because we
or
haven't
like
learned
Sean
our lesson.
Connery asking Pierce Brosnan, "Are they paying you enough money?"
There's definitely three of us here that agree with your sentiment there, Daniel, for sure. All right.
So that's it. We're done. It's over. What are we doing next? What is next? We're going to have, ladies and gentlemen, Fantasmagorium fans, and yes, I'm talking to you, Daniel and Eugene, because you guys are here.
Hey,
we're thinking about two things, and we're going to talk about it. We're either going to go, because before we've covered Tarantino, we've covered Lucas.
Mm-hmm.
We may, in light of recent events and a longing of our hearts, go with David Lynch, because there aren't as many as you think. And also on the table is looking forward to following up our Terminator discussions with The Matrix. But here at the Phantasmagorium, we haven't opened the bar yet. There has been no buffet. We don't know. We have to get together and talk about it. I'm pretty sure both of those things are going to happen. We just don't know in which order yet.
Correct.
What does my T-shirt say today? Underneath this sweater, I have the White Hand of Sardaukar T-shirt, nice. And on the back is when it has the quote written where he says, "Do not stop and hunt them down. Do not stop until they are found. You do not know pain. You do not know fear. You will taste man flesh."
Nice.
I saw that advertised.
You know, as far as a wet T-shirt content goes, that was terrible.
It's very dry.
I'm trying to imitate him because he's got a very deep tone voice.
Sorry, what?
I'm not trying to imitate him. He's got a deeper voice.
Oh, gotcha.
All right, Scotty, you want to take this last one and then we'll call it a night?
Daniel says, Flash 2, Flash 2, Flash 2. Please pray with me. I want a sequel to The Flash. Please, Scotty, watch it. You will love it. You know, that would be it. I will have to seek it out, but I haven't yet. You know, my problem. It's Ezra.
Yeah, I know. Yeah.
I just don't like that kid.
It was kind of, yeah. I mean, separate the art from the artist, because the movie's not that. It's not bad. It's actually.
Although in other news, I did just get the Blu-ray of the Zack Snyder Justice League cut, so I should watch that before I go into The Flash. So Daniel's Hot Topics, I will report back with my second viewing of Zack Snyder's Justice League and let you know what I think.
And kneel before Zod.
I will kneel before Zod. Snoochie Boochies.
I would not be a good contributor to David Lynch, so you would not see me in those. Only because the only thing about David Lynch that anybody has ever talked about, with the exception of Eraserhead and the Elephant Man, is Twin Peaks, and I've never shown interest in Twin Peaks, so I would be a terrible contributor, so you won't see me there. And that's just me being honest. There's nothing against David Lynch. I respect the hell out of the man, but outside of that, Twin Peaks and his Dune movie, nope. Sorry.
I have experienced several existential nightmares, but I have also enjoyed great raucous laughter with his artistry. So he has made me terrified, he has made me sad, he has made me happy, and he's made me laugh. And he brews a damn fine cup of coffee.
And wild at heart.
Elvis. Oh yeah. Come on. Remake of The Wizard of Oz with an Elvis slant? Love it.
So we'll decide over the next couple of days, you know, what we're going to do either the Lynch. We're gonna start a Lynch series or the Matrix series, and let you know. But we will be back next Thursday, and until then,
we won't be back.
Yeah.